Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. And I guess for the first, maybe for the first time, Dorothy, we can now say that WEEB is no longer just 990 AM.
That is correct.
We are, from what I understand, you are broadcasting now also on 97.3 FM.
Yes, we are. We got our stuff finished on the 30th of September, finally.
We were hoping it was going to be, back when we spoke to the Temple Theater a couple of weeks ago, we told Peggy Taphorn we thought her show would be the first one on FM, which she liked.
Yes, and we thought she would be the first show on FM, but we ran into some big speed bumps along the way, but we got over them. Well, we're up there finally.
Guess what? We have a show today that actually will resonate exceptionally well on FM, and when I introduce my guests, you'll know immediately why. An interesting note, the last couple of weeks, we've had no less than 3 shows on the arts.
They come in groups.
But you know what? People who walk through the store each year, we're in our 8th year now.
Yep.
It's almost like you get a feeling for the community, what's happening, because we don't dictate.
Oh.
People reach out to us when things are happening. So about a month ago, we had Annelle Stahl on, which we had videographed, and she is now a recording artist in Nashville. She is going to be she would have been a college freshman. We had the Temple Theater on, talking about their upcoming 2016-2017 season, which included a lot of plays, shows, and musicals. And the Paul Murphy family did a benefit for the community church in West Southern Pines for the community center, and I was fortunate to attend that event. And boy, are they talented! It was quite and my guests are shaking their heads yes, because they know who I'm talking about. So we are actually going to spend the hour today talking with all about the Carolina Philharmonic, which has in the last 8 years sort of gone from cult status to almost it's almost become like an institution in Moore County, and as you hear about what they're doing, you'll see why we refer to it now as an institution. It's become like a bedrock of Moore County. My guests today are Kathleen Wilford, who is the vice chairman of the board of the Carolina Philharmonic. Kathleen, I guess you've been with David from the get-go.
Yes, I have.
It's been a passion, and it's been a labor of love, has it not?
A passion and a pleasure.
So you've seen it grow, and you've seen, there are people who live in Moore County, and you made a great point before we started the show. Lots of people are moving into Moore County, and every time we've had David on, and we've had him on, fortunately, quite a bit over the last couple of years, people still need to be introduced to him and to what the Carolina Philharmonic is all about, because there's always a new wave of people coming in.
We're trying not to be the best kept secret in Moore County.
I think you're doing
too far away from
that?
I
think you're doing a good job of that.
Thank you.
And David Michael Wolf, who has been on the show in a couple of different capacities in the past. He's been like a guest host. He's been like an ad-libber. He's been somebody who's joined us with many different guests while speaking about the Philharmonic. David is the artistic director, I guess the founder, and his story was well chronicled. He moved here to Moore County back in, I'm going to say 06?
No, it's later than that. The very beginning of 09.
09,
like
okay.
January 1st, or the last few days of 2008.
You came here with a mission, and you started with nothing, and you had a vision.
Right.
Background information. Tell me about that vision, and tell me what's transpired over these last 7-8 years.
Well, briefly. Well, first, thanks for having me back.
Oh, always welcome. Always.
We've been around just about the same amount of time as you. You said you're in your 8th year, so we started just about the same time.
8th year on the radio, 300th year on this earth. Yeah, the years are going by too quickly.
Well, when I first came to Pinehurst, it was just visiting with my family. I had a 2-year-old daughter. I was guest conducting in Fayetteville, visiting from New York.
That's right.
And we just drove through Pinehurst on a Sunday afternoon, and it was gorgeous, and with all the winding roads, and it felt like a dream. And we got back to our tiny little, 1-bedroom converted apartment in Manhattan that was like costing us a fortune, right on the edge of Harlem, 124th and Broadway. And we had one couch and one bed and one crib and one tiny little table. And Youngmi says to me, my wife, she says, "So when are we moving?" And I don't know if she was serious or not, but we were thinking, we need to move outside of Manhattan. We didn't want to raise our daughter Rachel, growing, she was almost 3.
Right.
We didn't want to raise her in New York. And so we thought, well, this would be a beautiful place to raise our daughter, first of all. And more importantly, though, we were looking at my career and what I wanted to do with my life as a conductor. And I really saw orchestras, the future of orchestras not being very bright because we're not teaching our children music the way we used to back in the 1950s. And so the two of them being so intimately linked, what if you could start an orchestra and just start from scratch? What would be the perfect paradigm for a symphony orchestra? And it would be an education-based orchestra. The primary purpose would be to get an audience together, give them music that they want because they're the customer. Don't try to preach at them, but bring them into the audience, bring them onto the stage rather. And then from that audience space, create the support for music education programs that would be transformative and educate a new generation. And if you can do that right in one county, can you then export it? So I kind of came as a Pied Piper saying, let's create a new paradigm right here in Moore County, and then see if this is something that could work regionally, statewide, nationwide. And so I was crazy.
Yeah, how many people in New York said, "Are you nuts?"
Everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, agents that I worked with,
Right.
They said, "Don't do it. That's really stupid.
Right.
Just keep taking the gigs, keep taking the guest conducting, build up your career through the normal way." And I read, as a student, I read this book about conductors, and it gave advice to young conductors. And there were 8 or 9 different pathways you can take. And the very last one was found your own orchestra. And it said, by all means, do not do this. And I got in touch with the writer, who's a famous conductor, a couple of years ago, and I said, I'm sorry I didn't take your advice, but I loved your book. And she said, that is so inspirational. I'm so proud that you made it work.
You were going against the grain in many ways with the economy.
It was the worst time.
Lack of funding for schools, and what's the first thing that usually gets cut? The arts.
Yeah, repeatedly, just a little bit at a time. 1% each year for 50 or 60 years.
Yeah. But so 8 years later, the Carolina Philharmonic has become a mainstay in Moore County, and you've also created an indelible impression on a lot of students in Moore County. You've branched out a little bit. To say that the Carolina Philharmonic is a user-friendly organization is a huge understatement, because you touch all different ages, all different generations.
We're proud of that. From the youngest kids all the way through people who are late in retirement, and it's we reach everybody in kind of a different but special way.
Was the inspiration to reach out to the students, did it have anything to do with your upbringing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was given every advantage as a kid. Just a middle-class family. My dad worked hard in construction. Business was up and down. He had his own business. Couldn't really afford lessons, but somehow my parents made it work.
Right.
Not only for me, but for my brothers. Music education was considered paramount. And my mom played. I got with a great teacher. I auditioned 3 teachers when I was 6, and I chose the one I liked the best.
At 6 years old?
Yeah, I went with my mom.
That must be, Kathleen, the beginning of the entitled generation, right?
He was an exceptional child.
But it says something about your parents that they would help support a passion,
Right.
and they could recognize a talent. Sometimes parents diss the the kids when they go off on one tangent or another
Right.
because they switch around so
Yeah.
much. But for you, that wasn't the case.
I mean, I was such an awkward kid too. I don't think I realized it, but being so shy, being terribly picky eater, being kind of an outsider in so many ways, music was something that I needed to be able to learn, to grow, and to learn how to love learning.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that music does for kids. It puts you in a state where you're uncomfortable, and it shows you that that state is perfectly fine and normal. And once you learn to love being in that state of growing, being in a discomfort, and learning to love that, you can apply that to any area of learning.
It just occurred to me from all the times you've been on the show, if you didn't have a daughter, you might not be here.
Oh, I wouldn't, for sure. And if I didn't have a daughter, the program that I created for the Encore Kids program, she is my co-creator.
So she was a big inspiration.
I mean, she was right in that age group for K through 2, and we could talk about Link Up for grades 3 through 5 with Carnegie Hall, and the K through 2 program I created that I co-created with Rachel called K through Encore Kids. All of the best ideas in Encore Kids came because she said, "No, Dad, that's not right. That's not what we like." And she was right at that age group where she could say she was my target audience. So she gave me all these great ideas.
So if you were a single man, you
Yeah.
didn't get married, you didn't have children, you might still be in New York doing what people told you to do, a gig here, a gig there,
Yeah, absolutely.
keep working on your resume,
Absolutely.
but you would not have had the ability to create something.
And I would have been the poorer for it. I mean, the family is what makes the man. It's what makes all of us.
Right.
Your wife, your spouse, your daughter, your kids. You kind of do everything in your career and in your life to somehow find balance in your family life, and that's what makes you find fulfillment also in your career. It's kind of
Yeah.
that's how it works, I guess.
Yeah, it's a different angle that we've never really talked about, but it just realized that your daughter has had a profound effect on what you've done here. Kathleen, one of the nicest thing about the arts, and you tell me, it's not political. In our day and age, it's a unifying passion for people. It's not Democratic, it's not Republican, it's music. It's
refreshing and it's restorative.
Yeah, and it's people.
It's common ground.
Yeah, and it's one of the hooks, I guess, or one of the advantages of having the Carolina Philharmonic here is it's a great mentoring stepping stone for a lot of the youth in Moore County, and we're going to talk about that today, what kind of impact the Philharmonic has had on a lot of our families' children.
We're excited about it. We're excited about being able to, last year, at the end of May, when we finished our third program,
Yeah,
we had touched 10,000 children in Moore County.
amazing.
We didn't realize it ourselves until after the concert, and we sat down to think about the numbers.
Yeah. David said he was so taken by Moore County when he first came here. It was like a postcard. And we always say that Moore County is a great place to raise a family.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons it's a great place is because there are so many mentoring opportunities through a lot of nonprofit organizations here. I mean, you go to the First Tee program, even the Paul Murphy and his family with the community center.
What a wonderful family they are.
Oh my God! But they're using their music to help mentor kids after school, and they're using it to help them do their homework. They're giving them the arts, things that they might not get in school. So the bridge that music provides does leave indelible impressions.
Doctors are starting to prescribe music as the antidote for all sorts of different things.
Really?
For depression, for sleep disorders, for to be able to become a better learner. I mean, there's all sorts of different things that medically, but also psychologically,
Right.
that doctors and the whole scientific field are starting to realize with the concrete evidence that we're starting to gather, that we've been gathering over the past 25, 30, 40 years, that music is a concrete thing that is part of our existence that we can't do without. And when you take it away, we don't realize what we're missing, but we start feeling like we're a little messed up.
A lot of people think, the arts are like a glue to civilization.
Right.
And without it, where do we go? You you had Kathleen, you had sent me a copy of the mission of the Carolina Philharmonic. I'd like to read it if I may.
Please.
Because I think it sets a great tone. And listen to this: the mission of the Carolina Philharmonic, to perpetuate a lifetime appreciation for music and the arts by providing opportunities for thousands of local children every year to experience the joy of exceptional music through interactive, and that's a key word, interactive orchestral programs in partnership with schools across the region, and by presenting exceptional concerts that entertain, educate, and inspire audiences of all ages. That's, I don't know who wrote that, but it is terrific. The interactive component is huge.
Interactive, I mean, that is the word that links together everything we do.
Right.
So if you come to our concerts, don't expect to be part of the audience and we're up on the stage. It's like you're in a living room, even if we have 600, 700 people and we're sold out.
Right.
It feels like we're all just having a party together.
Right.
And I leave the stage as often as I can so I can interact with the audience and get rid of that artificial barrier that people think must separate the stage and a classical symphony orchestra. And when you get people to realize, audiences of all ages and children too, that there's nothing by nature elevated about the symphony orchestra or distant or superior or the stuffy. All of that stuff has just been created by culture and by tradition, but it doesn't have anything to do with the actual essence of the orchestra. And when you can get rid of that, especially for kids. So like when I started the Encore Kids concert, we have 3 different versions of it, but the one we did this past year, I entered the auditorium, it's packed with all these K-2 students, 1,200 kids at a time, and they're all excited, and I came wearing a Jedi outfit. So you couldn't see my face, and I just walked through, and the kids were looking. When you're that young, you don't know what's real and what's not real anymore.
That's right.
Yet, and so they still believe in magic. And so when they see a Jedi come in, they're like, "Oh my God, that could be a real Jedi."
Yeah.
And I go on the stage, and I took the podium, and I picked up my baton, which was actually a Jedi lightsaber. And the lights went off, totally black,
Cool.
and suddenly the lightsaber, you could see it glowing blue. And I turned around and I flashed, and I flashed it at them, and some people, and others like, whoa, and they started screaming, right? And then I lifted the lightsaber, which was, of course, now my baton.
Right.
And then as I slashed down at the music in front of me, which they couldn't see, the sound of Star Wars came out. And when the kids saw that and they experienced the orchestra, and they suddenly realized, I already loved the symphony orchestra, I just didn't know what it was. This is the music that brings me the music for Harry Potter, that brings me Into the Woods, all these soundtracks that I love, that brings all these movies to life that I love. This is the instrument that does that for me.
And at the same time, David brandished the baton in blue.
Right.
On 2 large screens on either side of the stage, Star Wars
Like
came
a big
up.
video game.
And
The
our
video came up.
percussionists were striking their drums with the same
With
thing.
the light
so you
sticks.
could
It
see,
was
in the back
fantastic.
you
Oh, my
could see it like Blue Man.
You got the kids' attention, and you've gotten our attention. We're going to come back in the second set. We're speaking all show today about the Carolina Philharmonic. welcome back to our second set. Dorothy, that's why it's good this show is going to be broadcast on 97.3 FM.
Yes, it is.
That guest soloist is actually going to be performing with you in an upcoming event.
That's right. Our opening concert of the season on October 22nd, 7:30 p.m. at San Jose Community College. That's Mayumi Kanagawa, and she is one of the most gifted young violinists in the world right now. A couple of years back, one of the major agents tipped me off about her. He said, she's 19. She's just
19?
She was 19 a couple of years ago. We brought her out. She came out 2 years ago, and she performed the Tchaikovsky Concerto, and the audience just jumped to their feet as one at the conclusion of it. And so I asked her to come back. And since then, recently she was invited to the second largest violin competition in the world, the Sibelius competition. They wean it down from about 500 applicants worldwide, and she was accepted, and she made it into the finals. And it happens once every 4 years. It's like an Olympics level event, and she's coming in from Berlin. I think she was born in Japan, grew up partly a little bit in Berlin. Her father worked there for Sony, Masterworks, and then she was in Los Angeles, and now she's back in Berlin studying, and so she's flying in for this concert on the 22nd.
How did you hook up with her? How did that happen?
It was through this agent that I know, and in New York, and he said, we haven't booked her yet, but she's phenomenal, and so I looked into her, and I got in touch with her.
She's not the first artist of this type of stature that you have recruited into Moore County.
We're proud of the artists we bring in. We bring in somebody of this stature, and even much more famous people, great artists from Broadway, people who are just in between major shows, lead roles on Broadway, come for our Pops concerts, which sell out. Our Pops concerts all sold out last year, such that we added additional performances, and some of the additional performances also sold out. And so we've grown from, one of our first concerts, as you know, a concert for 3 people, and an orchestra of 18 at that time, to the full symphony orchestra, and we were selling out at 700 at Owens Auditorium, and then we're adding matinee performances. So we're blessed. This is the first season where we're kind of going into it feeling, at least me, even though we're working really hard to keep up, I feel like we're not scrambling.
Right.
And that things are kind of coming together for us.
Owens Auditorium has become your home.
It is our home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the acoustics there are phenomenal.
They're good. They're not phenomenal, but we're actually
getting better.
There's a
They're good.
In partnership with the college.
Right.
There's a major renovation that's going to be taking place starting in June, and I don't know how much Dr. Dempsey will allow me to say, but we're basically they'll need to shut down Owens for a full season while they renovate the auditorium.
And what will you do in that full season?
Play on street corners.
Okay. I have a couple of lampposts I know about. I can plant them there.
We'll probably be over at the college. I mean, at the high school. At the high school, yeah.
At Robert E. Lee Auditorium. Talking about Robert E. Lee Auditorium, we were in the first set. We were talking about the impact that you have on the students, the children of Moore County. Can you now, 8 years into this, can you quantify a little bit about how many students that you have touched through?
Kathy, you want to talk about that?
The Carolina Philharmonic?
Yes, at the close of our last children's concert last season,
Yeah.
we had reached 10,000 local children.
Wow, that's amazing.
Over the course of 6 years.
That's amazing.
We started with a junior orchestra program that we picked up that had become
Right.
cut from a budget,
Right.
and it grew from there. We're surprised ourselves.
You've posted, you've made some very memorable postings on Facebook. There's some clips of some of the events where the kids have been there, and David has been holding court. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. Almost like the Pied Piper, but maybe not with the baton every time you're out there, but in some way, yes, because they're spellbound.
Like I say, when you're the children, they still believe in magic.
Yeah.
And if you can introduce them to exceptional music,
Right.
when they're that age and they fall in love with the symphony orchestra, and they realize that everything that they love about music is embodied and magnified by the symphony orchestra, then you've got them for life, and they won't forget it.
Right.
We are beginning
Kathleen?
to see families come to our adult performances, our evening performances, and bring all of the children. And the little ones get dressed up. It becomes a beautiful event, and it's all ages. It appeals to all ages.
We talk about New York a lot, and the level of the quality here on a much more localized level is so impressive for an area of, 90,000 people, Moore County, something like that?
Yes.
Something like that. People don't have to travel the way they used to. 15 years ago, this would have been unheard of in Moore County. Unheard of. 8 years ago, you came here and there was a shift. And
I don't know if that's kind of a strong way to put it, but we're blessed here in Moore County.
It's a shift because the demographics are in your favor.
That's
right.
Suppose.
It sort of became like a perfect storm in a way, in a good way. But this county is teeming with kids. But the schools it's hard to continue all the programs with the budget cuts and such. So what you're providing is, even though it's outside of the school, it's still part of their education.
Well, it's not outside of the school. The junior orchestra is outside, but we actually partner with the school, so it's a public-private partnership. And that's really the wave of the future, because for the past 50 years as a nation, as taxpayers, we've looked to the government and said they should really be doing more. And we talk about it, and we don't really vote for it. And nothing changes. It just gets worse and worse and worse. So the future, as I see it, is really only through public-private partnerships. So we partner with the school district. We're able to finance what we do through private donors, through our patrons, through people who come to our concerts and believe in what we're doing. People who might give $50 to pay for a child. It costs us $50 per child, and we're serving 3,500 kids a year in Moore County. And so it adds up.
Sure does.
And but what we've been able to do through this paradigm now is really show other people in other regions and other states that this is possible. And I was sharing with you earlier, through my other orchestra in Virginia, Orchestra 2100, the board there, the staff of the orchestra, and the supporters, they're looking at Moore County, North Carolina, and saying, how can we do this in Virginia? How can we do this in D.C.? How can we learn from Moore County and bring it here? So Encore Kids, my Encore Kids program is now launching this year in Mecklenburg County, Virginia, which is the second poorest county in Virginia, reaching at-risk kids. And we're going into Fairfax County next year. And so through a partnership with the Carolina Philharmonic, we're able to bring the Encore Kids program and all of what we've learned through the experience, and Kathy's helping out with this too, to be able to expand not only within North Carolina, but beyond North Carolina.
Wow.
So it's exciting. It's an exciting time. Everything we do outside is funded through the other orchestra, but they're able to profit from our experience here.
Right.
And it's exciting for me to see that now not only will we be reaching 3,500 kids here, but through our sphere of influence, we're going to be reaching 1,200 kids in Mecklenburg County. We expect to reach another 10,000 kids next year in Virginia. And so we could be reaching through our programs next year 15,000 kids.
Wow.
And then it would just grow from there, hopefully.
And that all started here in Moore County?
And that was part of the original vision.
Was it?
Yes. To make music accessible.
Wow. Well, we can't lose him now. We have to keep him here.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
I go back and forth, though. I spend a week.
You're allowed. We will give you permission to leave the state. One week a month.
Who would want to leave Pinehurst?
That's right.
And the Sand Hills, this whole region.
That's right.
We chose this region to raise our child here because it's such a beautiful, idyllic place.
Right.
And we're staying.
It's important to note, Kathleen, that the Carolina Philharmonic relies almost solely on volunteers.
Yes, we are a volunteer-powered organization, other than our professional musicians, and we have 2 paid staff.
Right.
We are an entirely volunteer organization.
You have some very loyal and very passionate patrons, many of whom I know. Betsy Robinson comes to
yes.
mind, Anita Emery,
Yep.
and they have been great supporters, I guess, from the get-go, or
Very, very early on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
and they are great conduits because they are so networked and they know so many people and they're so committed. And you get people like that are catalysts that really set a fire on the ground and makes it spread a lot quicker.
They're both passionate about children and reaching out into the community
Right.
and making this area a better place.
Right.
When we talk about our volunteer, powered by volunteers, if we count up the volunteer hours times, $15 an hour,
Yeah.
our volunteers are putting in more than $500,000 each year into the Carolina Philharmonic, and that doesn't even count all the energy that goes out from all these sparks in the community who are involved in what we do. So it's exciting to be involved in a non-profit, environment where you're really depending on volunteer hours and people who are inspired by what they believe in.
It's exciting, and it is also inspiring. It's a success story, and it's kind of organic in a way. And Moore County was like a blank canvas, and now it's become like ground zero for what is becoming a very important part of the culture that the county has to offer.
Well, thanks. Well,
No, I mean, that's true. I have all these epiphanies today. Now, after talking to David for a couple of times, all these things are just hitting me. We're going to come back in the third set. We're talking about the Carolina Philharmonic, as much a part of Moore County these days as just about anything else. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our third set of All Things Moore County. We're talking with David Michael Wolf, Carolina Philharmonic, and Kathleen Wilford about their past 8 years, about their upcoming season, about the impact that the Philharmonic has had on Moore County and in particular on its youth. But your upcoming season, Kathleen, you start on Saturday, the 22nd of October at 7:30 with Symphonic Masterworks, The New World. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other events running right through April, and of course your Holiday Pops, which has become an annual tradition.
Yes. Yes, and this year, the first year, we've expanded the program to have 2 shows. We'll typically and historically, it's been the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving.
Right, that's right.
And we have sold out for the last 3 years. We've turned people away from the door. So this year we decided to have a matinee the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Great time to do it, Thanksgiving weekend.
And we're hoping to capture the families. This is a fun program.
Right.
This year we'll be reciting the night before Christmas to music. Joyce Railing will be our narrator. She does a fabulous job. And it's really a spectacular show, and children of all ages love it.
And David is bringing in some Broadway artists for that event and for a couple of other events, I guess, later in the season.
Yes.
So you just have become a conduit. You have a theme, don't you, for the upcoming season, kicking off on the 22nd of October that I know you want to talk about?
Well, the theme this year, and I think it comes from my personal reaction to everything that we're experiencing in the world right now in our country.
Right.
The angst that's out there, the all the negativity and the infighting and all of that. And I thought, what if we were to create a season that would remind all of us why we love America, what's great about America, what we believe in as American people, what is the fiber of our identity. So I put together a season starting with Dvorak's New World Symphony, which the great Czech composer came to America. He was able to see it as an outsider, and he, as an educator as well as a composer, he thought, let's show the Americans what they could do with their own roots. The spirituals, the Negro spirituals, the Indian music, native music, all of the kind of folk song material. So he integrated a lot of that material into what we now know as the New World Symphony, which became, ironically, as a Czech nationalist composer, became his most famous work, and the most famous quote-unquote American symphony out there. Mm-hmm. And so we're starting with that, and then we're doing in the second half with Mayumi Kanagawa, the violinist coming in from Berlin.
Right.
We're doing Korngold's violin concerto. Korngold fled Nazi Germany, Jewish composer, the most gifted composer by many accounts since Mozart. He fled Nazi Germany, ended up in Hollywood, and he became the most famous composer in Hollywood throughout the war years, and writing some of the great Hollywood scores. And with the money he earned as a popular composer, he was like the John Williams of the day. He was able to rescue untold numbers of Jews fleeing Europe. And but he, after the war ended, he didn't want to write for Hollywood anymore, and he wanted to just be a serious composer again. So he took some of his most famous melodies from film scores in the 40s, turned it into a violin concerto, and so it's like a Hollywood concerto for violin, and that's what Mayumi's going to be playing. Wow. And through the season, we have Broadway music, we have Gershwin, we've got Copland. On every concert, we have something that is something that identifies us as Americans.
Right.
And in that concert space, what's beautiful about it is that nobody comes in with any politics or any baggage. You just come in to experience the joy of music. And at a Carolina Philharmonic event, you're also coming in to experience, to celebrate what we do for kids. And so there's a special kind of mood that comes about when you entering the doors of a Carolina Philharmonic concert. Right. Whatever it is, about doing something great for the community, doing something great for the next generation, and just having a really great visceral experience with the joy of music.
You can talk, all day about the spirit of the shows, but the most compelling information are from people who attend for the first time. And when they come out and they describe what they saw, it's moving. And you do transform people, you transform the environment and the atmosphere. So people who have not been to any of your performances, any of your shows, they just need to go to one, and they'll go back to another and another. And the people that go and who are very loyal to the Philharmonic speak that way, and there's a glint in their eye, and you go, huh? Where is that coming from? But you have to experience it.
You do. You have to be there in person, because it's not what you would experience with any other symphony orchestra.
That's right.
It's not what you would. There's no point of reference.
You have a gorgeous booklet for the 2016-2017 season. I mean, this is stunning. And I've noticed as we're talking, you have a couple of ads from some of your patrons. And the question is always, what if?
Right.
and you pose a couple of questions, and the answer always is about the music unifies.
Right.
It's essential.
Right.
For an example, what if there were one enjoyable thing we could do that would enable children to get past being uncomfortable with learning difficult tasks?
Right.
Very important. It is essential.
Music is essential.
And it's all about the music. And now that I've brought this up, I wish I had them all in front of me.
That brilliant campaign you're speaking of, that was Betsy Robinson's idea.
Oh, it's terrific. No, well, I'm not.
I'm
not surprised.
It's great. Music is essential, and we've forgotten that. And it's, with all the testing we do for our kids, we're trying to turn American kids into Chinese kids. And China, in the meantime, is trying to turn their kids into creative thinkers like we celebrate traditionally in America.
Right.
The arts are what teach us to retain our creativity. All kids are geniuses. All kids are creative. All kids are inventing. All kids are musicians. The sound of the mother's voice, is interpreted by the child when they're newborns as music. We're all musical, entities, and so when we don't need to introduce music to kids. We just need to let them keep it. We need to let them retain their creativity, and music does that.
Right. There's it does. There's one more I want to read. What if there were one enjoyable thing we could do that would enable children to learn, to plan, strategize, and pay attention to detail? Mm-hmm. One of the common denominators of this ad campaign is discipline.
Right.
And but in a learning environment that is comforting. It's not penal. It's
right.
Arms are being wrapped around the learning experience.
And it's an emotional experience because music taps into your emotional center.
Uh-huh.
And then when you then connect that emotion to what you're learning, and you connect it to other subjects, and you connect that joy of learning and the emotion of it with learning, it enables you to learn much faster.
Yeah.
Another great thing is that when we're bringing 1,200 kids into an auditorium together, they prepared in their music classes in schools, maybe 20 kids at a time, 25 kids at a time.
Right.
From every school in the county, they all bus in, and it's the only experience in their entire education in Moore County where you get kids from every single school coming together into one place, and they've all prepared in small groups. But then in that moment, those groups of 25 kids turn into an orchestra and a choir of 1,200, and there's no division between schools, between neighborhoods, between economic variables and all that. They're just one group of kids who all, they love the music. They're looking around at each other. They're singing and they're dancing. It's a communal experience that unites them.
There's a very compelling ad taken out. It says, to Maestro David Michael Wolf and the Carolina Philharmonic, on behalf of the over 3,500 Moore County students who received the gift of exceptional music education through Carnegie Hall's Link Up and Maestro's Encore Kids last year, thank you. And it's signed Dr. Robert Grimacy, from the Superintendent of Moore County Schools, Dr. Alan Marshall, the head of school at Sandhills Classical Christian School, and Tom Brereton, the head of school at the Episcopal Day School.
Right, we're grateful for their support. It is a partnership.
Wow.
We're able to do it together. And one of our biggest partners is Sandhills Community College and Dr. Dempsey.
Yes.
So we're blessed to have a lot of people in the community who believe in what we're doing and believe that we can elevate the community in some capacity even more through programs like this.
He lives on the cutting edge, doesn't he?
Oh, he does.
He really does. He's ahead of the curve. He's always been ahead of the curve, as I've seen.
He's a visionary.
Huh?
He's a visionary.
Yeah, I think he is ahead of the curve.
I've been in so many meetings with Dr. Dempsey where it feels like it's just a nice, slow-paced meeting, and after about 30 minutes, it's over, and he gets more done in one 30-minute meeting than I can manage in about 4 or 5-hour meetings. Wow. He's brilliant.
Looking at this magazine after 8 years, it's got to be a source of pride to look at all the advertisers. It's like a who's who in Moore County. I mean, this is how far the Philharmonic has come. It looks like like the Pinehurst Magazine. I mean, it is just first class all the way.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, it's got to give you a great sense of pride.
It's exciting for us.
Huh?
We love the feedback. We love the support.
Yeah.
And we feel the community gathering around us.
And the new people that you have to reach out to each year, because you just keep getting more people in town, and word of mouth travels very quickly in Moore County. People can go onto your Facebook. Are you the social media consultant for?
I am not.
Who? Okay. People either are or they're not.
We have a couple of people on staff who help with
Okay.
social media, but Kathy oversees all of our marketing.
So it's if people just go to Facebook and type
in Carolina
Carolina
Philharmonic,
Phil.
That's it.
It'll come up. Yeah.
they can like the page.
Yeah.
And they can go to your website, carolinaphil.org.
.org.
That's carolinaphil.org for ticket sales.
Ticket sales. If you go to our homepage, you can connect to our ticketing site, which is carolinaphil.yapcity.org. But don't try to remember that. It's just carolinaphil.org, and then you can find all that right there.
Yeah. I want to wish you a lot of luck in this upcoming season. You're just a couple of weeks away from Symphonic Masterworks, A New World, featuring guest Mayumi. Help me out with it.
Kanagawa.
Thank you, Kanagawa. And I think there's a special tribute in your opening show. I think you should thank your daughter. I think that she should. She's not here. She's been here. This precocious girl has been in this studio at a couple of times at different stages in her life. I've seen her, and she's a handful, and it's all good. But I keep going back to the fact, if you didn't have her,
Right.
you might not be here.
It's more than that, though. She gives me some of my best business advice.
I bet she
Some
does.
of my best ideas, they all come from her. And just this morning she was saying, I'm not sure if you'll realize how many of your ideas are actually my ideas. And so it's great that you bring that up, because Rachel, thank you so much. You are my inspiration.
Yeah, I hope she listens. Kathleen, it's always great to have you, and I appreciate you putting all this together so we could get together at this time of the year, just at the beginning of the new season, and it should be a very exciting one.
Thank you, Bill. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. We
Yeah.
appreciate the opportunity.
Anytime. And David might have more marks on himself as the most frequent guest on our show over the last 6 years. I'm not sure. But it's nice to have you where it's just us. It's just you.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for all you do for the community, because you're one of those pieces of glue that brings everything together and brings people together, connects people and ideas. And
I love Moore
appreciate
County
it.
like you do, and it's a privilege to live here, and it's a privilege to be able to have this format to talk about things that are important to the the solidarity of the county.
Thanks, Bill.
Carolina Philharmonic has really become a mainstay in Moore County, and if you're not familiar with them, if you've not attended any of their events, I urge you to do so this year. It'll be an eye-opening experience. We're getting into the holiday seasons. Halloween is right around the corner, and Thanksgiving. So best of luck to you both.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great week. Thank you.